Seeing none, let's move to Art. You want to step up? The winter athletic summary.
We went over most of the highlights, but we'll go over some of the team accomplishments. But it was definitely a historic winter season for us in many sports. But starting with the first page, the memo page, just gives a background of what winter sports we offer, what are conference sports, what are not conference sports, and then we give a list of the box shows our school enrollment, number of students, and the percentage that we're at. And there was a question, as you see on here, we're actually is our lowest percentage for winter athletes over the last 5 years. But I think it's you really got to wait till the end of the year and look at our overall participation, because if we go back to the fall, our numbers were the highest they've ever been. So I think it's hard to tell right off the bat why we had some decline in certain sports. Some of those athletes might have played a fall sport and then chose not to do a winter, and then will come out for a spring. But the athletes that we did have out this winter had just unbelievable success, so that part is good. So moving to the athletic summary page, I'll just go through the team kind of accomplishments, and since we did all the individuals. Our girls basketball program was 26-5 overall this year, 9-3 in the MSC. We lost to OPRF 55-40 in the first round of the regionals. We finished second in the MSC. We won our Bill Vandenberg Thanksgiving tournament. Actually, that is a misprint. We won also first place in our holiday tournament. We took third at the Oak Lawn tournament. Our JV team was 16-9 overall, 8-4 in the MSC. Freshman A were 12-12, 8-4 in the MSC. Our freshman B were 7-12 in all, or 7-12 overall. We had 2 all-conference athletes. Boys basketball, like we went over, had a school record for wins. We were 28-4 overall, 12-0 in the MSC. Lost to Stevenson in the super sectioner, who went on to win the state title. So I guess if we're going to lose, we'll lose the state
by the same
champion.
number of points.
By the same number of points, so yeah. For our first sectional championship, we defeated Morton over there, which I think all of you were there. A very exciting game. Our 14th consecutive MSC championship, we won the Thanksgiving tournament in second place at York. Our sophomores were 19-5 overall, 11-1 in the MSC. They were the MSC champs also. Our freshmen A were 17-7, 11-1 in the MSC, also conference champs. And our freshmen B were conference champs, 13-7 overall, and 8-0 in the MSC. And we had 4 all-conference players, including the MVP. Our cheerleading squad was 7th at the sectional, first place in the conference, second place at Joliet West Cheerfest. This was the first year, too, that our cheerleading squad got moved up to the highest class, so it got a little more difficult for us. Our JV was 2nd at the MSC and 4th at the ICAA, and we had 4 all-conference athletes. Our girls gymnastics, Lacey was our IHSA sectional qualifier, placed 4th at the regional, 4th at our independent conference meet, and we won our gymnastic invite that we host. Our junior varsity was 1-3 overall, in 3rd place in the independent conference meet. Our competitive dance team took 16th at the state meet this year, and 2nd place in the MSC, and we honored them at our last board meeting. Had 3 all-conference athletes. Boys swimming, 5-1 overall in just the dual meets, but we were in a bunch of other invites and things like that. Took 1st place at the Lincoln Way Central Relays, and 2nd place at the RB invite, 3rd at the sectional, and won conference for the 2nd year in a row. And our junior varsity also won conference, and had a number of all-state athletes that we went over earlier. Wrestling program was 18-5 overall, 1-4 in the MSC. We had a number of IHSA state qualifiers. Won the regional, 2nd place in the MSC. Junior varsity was 5-4, 0-2 in the MSC. Freshmen were 0-1 and just one dual meet that they actually kept score, but they competed in like 15 other meets. But a lot of times at the freshman level, don't keep team scores. It's all individual. Had 6 all-conference athletes, and then Alon Carter took 5th place at the state meet.
Art, is it pretty typical that there's only 4 meets for gymnastics?
No, that's kind of the same thing, just dual meets. And then there's a number of quads and invites that we go to, so it's hard to put all that information on here. But in a straight dual meet, you can have up to, I think it's 14 meets, but you can do it in a combination of invites or quads or things like that.
Thank you.
Yep. So the next page is a number of different tables with different informations, which show the last 5 years of our participation levels, is that first box. And like we said, there's a couple sports this year in the winter that we went down. Our wrestling program kind of skyrocketed. So I think, it's hard to determine after 1 year of, was that because kids are not interested, or is it because they got involved in something else? But we'll look at it at the end of the year and see our overall participation numbers, and hopefully that will be around the highest that we've ever had. That's the goal.
Can I ask you, I talked to Kevin a little about this. It still makes sense, I think, for us to look at it sport by sport, season by season, instead of at the end of the year, the number's up, the number's down, we did great, we did bad. And again, I don't want to pick on a particular sport or something, but, you could pick a sport here and kids participate or don't. They didn't skip swimming this winter to run track, unlikely.
Right.
They don't skip swimming to play water polo, although a lot of the players do play water polo. So I still think there's the question of what do we do because our goal is for participation part of it.
Right.
And when we look at the cost to more participants as a general, the cost per student goes down for the sport. So what do we do do you talk to the coach and say, hey, is there a reason we were down this year? What can we do to get more kids next year? Or do we just say the year's over, the total is up, so we're in good shape?
No, we talk about it of why do we hit that? Is it the freshman class that are choosing different sports than they previously chose? Right. Where's our feeder programs at? Are we losing kids that showed interest and no longer are showing interest? Why is that? So yeah, we talk about it. Okay. I think it's something at the end of this year, and what we haven't looked at is where is that freshman group coming? What sports are they going to? Was it traditionally going to swimming and now they're going to wrestling? Sure. I don't know. So it's hard to just to come up with that answer without kind of looking at it kind of big picture. So, but we do discuss why were your numbers low? What happened? Oh, we had a feeder group that didn't have large numbers, so we knew this year was going to be down, or next year we know is going to be way up because we got all these kids coming in. So it is definitely something we look at. We just it's
well, on the flip side of that, as far as figuring out why, is what to do about it. Yeah, because our goal is to increase participation. So if to me, if you could in some way instill some concrete plans to try to get out there in the community, feeder schools, programs, whatever, especially when it's a couple of years in a row, right. Then it's concerning.
Right.
So I have a couple questions. With the same vein of that, is that part of the job description, is to build the program up? Mm-hmm. So for example, I'm looking here, and maybe you have an insight. The boys golf program for the last 3 years has shown some big growth and I'm assuming it probably dropped because of our initial pay to play, but then it's gone from 22 to 31 to this year 41 individuals. Is that because of the coach there encouraging people, or what? Do you have any insight into?
Well, part of it, I think, is our population has grown, so you have more athletes, or you have potential athletes.
Yeah, but then you can say that for all the programs, right, that are non-cut.
Right. No, it's a great question. One of the big things that we evaluate is what do you do to grow your program, whether that's start a feeder program that we didn't have in the past, or start something that we don't have. But it's something we look at of how do you raise numbers in some. One of the questions was, why is our girls golf program such low numbers? And historically for the last 15 years that I've been here, I don't know if we've ever had more than 20 girls golfers. It's just one of the things is you look at the other sports during that season that they're choosing. So. And not to bounce around, but to go to that question, I just looked at it in the fall, we have 5 girls' sports that they can choose from. So we're limited in the sense of every program is going to be the highest number every year. And we have all these other activities and things like that the kids get involved in. So you kind of got to look at the big picture and where are these kids, what are these kids' interests, and are they actually getting involved, but maybe not in that specific sport, but they are involved in something else. So, but we look at it, we talk about it, what can we do to keep increasing it, and the one thing is we pretty much offer more levels than most of the schools. Well, in our conference, we have the most levels out of anybody. For the school our size of 1,600 students, we pretty much offer everything you can offer and field a team at every level. We're struggling right now in the spring when it comes to, just for example, girls softball. There's schools of 4,000 that don't have a freshman softball team. They just don't have the numbers. They don't have the interest. We do, which is a good thing. You know, and I mentioned before at a previous meeting, like, we're going to get to the point where I don't know if we can necessarily go any farther. Like that 50% is that magic number that I think we've talked about that we want.
That was the second follow-up question
Okay.
that I'd like to see on this report going forward, is basically at this, because you did the cost structure with the amount of stipends in there, what is the capacity? What do you run, what is the utilization rate? So for like basketball, you're at 44, boys basketball is 44. Is that a 98%, you know, because you're going to have so many only playing boys basketball.
Well, and then
if you can put that percentage down, because that would help us understand cost per athlete.
Sure.
So I guess what we can say, you know, we can look at it and go, well, there's only going to be somewhere around $1,000 cost per athlete for basketball, because we're only going to have from 44 to maybe 48 or 49, depending. And that's always going to be there based on the number of coaching staff you're going to need. But, you know, girls golf, we're at a, you know, whatever, X%, and that potentially can grow to get our goal of utilization of.
Right.
Right?
Yeah,
And get
I mean,
number of participants
Yeah, and
increasing.
going back to like 3-4 years ago, we had, and we're starting to bring that back, the coaching stipends, but you bring back an assistant coach, you might be able to keep more athletes. You bring back an assistant coach that brings back a level, or we could add a level.
Right, but then that's
you know.
additional cost. But at this
As a
cost
stipend,
structure you
but-
add in here, what was their capacity, you know,
What would be the
utilization?
max number
Yeah.
for each sport?
Yeah,
is what
where
I'm
did we
asking.
run in? So, you know,
Okay.
right.
And the other thing that we can't tell from here, Art, and usually, if you don't mind, if we just use golf as an example, the numbers went up and down. It went from 10 to 19 to 12, I think, for girls. And as you said, boys, girls, the one question I was thinking is boys golf no cut, but girls is a cut sport?
No, both are no cut right now.
Okay, so that's
Yeah, that's
just
just-
the number of kids that came out.
Historically, how it's kind of been over.
And you kind of see with track too, the boys' numbers are up much higher than the girls. You know, again, then you wonder, are we encouraging girls? Are they girls enjoying the track?
One of the things also is when we did like the Title IX stuff last year, we have, our population is 55% male, 45% female. So
Okay.
you're going to have some of these sports that
Sure.
they're really filled to capacity based upon our population.
Okay.
Good point.
So I just want to build up on this. And to me, and I think I want to rephrase it, but I also want to bring it to you, to Kristen, too. Any extracurricular person that's doing extracurricular activity for us, running it, managing it, from sports to other activities, chess, you know, and that stuff, we're looking for them to try to build their program up by looking at the feeder schools as our source for making sure that they're talking to the people there and working with them on it. Am I right? Is that what when we're doing an evaluation, that's one of the things we're looking at?
Yes, absolutely. That's
Okay.
one of the ones on there. And I think we have started a lot of programs over the last couple of years that we didn't have, or with the rentals too, with community groups that now we, you know, basically are our feeder programs, from a number of softball programs to baseball programs to wrestling to swimming to basketball to girls basketball, which we never had. Now we have. You know, you're limited in time, and you only have so many athletes if they're doing 2 or 3 sports, that there's only so much time that they can do these things. But that is definitely one thing that we always look at. What can we start? Because that's our future. So we need, you know, we're looking at a football one. We have a soccer one. So, you know, that is a major thing.
I have a comment. Possibly, I don't know if you do kind of an interview of your athletes at the end, but from my oldest child to my youngest, there's a 12-year spread. And I think you may be experiencing some of the trends with the club sports. So, you know, the youngest plays volleyball, played high school volleyball. Her entire team in club volleyball, most of them have dropped out of their winter sports because their club season is becoming more and more demanding. It's 3 nights practice, 2 days over the weekend, so it's 5 days in club. If they have advanced classes, there is no time for that additional sport. So some of our story could just be a trend. And so I think maybe if you ask, and say, how many of you will be, doing club with your, in the past, we had a lot of 3-sport athletes. I think we're seeing less of that. I think that trend is changing, and they kind of specialize and focus on less.
Yeah, that is the
Right?
trend that every high school athletic program is facing, that kids are specializing in a certain sport, and they end
Right.
up doing that sport year-round.
And then they, they got to take time off for the different muscle groups. They're working with trainers. We never saw that 10 years ago. The trainers are telling you to take that off. And so you might want to add that to your story. And it might not be about we're not getting them, but they are focusing in their craft, and they, their trainers are telling them, you got to give those shoulders a break.
Another thing I would suggest, if you look at it, is it, without additional cost, trading out a program? So girls golf, historically, we just don't get a lot of participants. But can you substitute it out with that cost structure with girls lacrosse, for example? And would that participation rate be higher with the number of participants?
I did a survey last summer, which I'll do again this summer, for what are the interests out there, to find out that answer. Is there something that we currently don't have that kids are interested in? There wasn't anything that we currently don't offer there's a large group. I have, on the boys' side, boys lacrosse has, I met with the group and we've talked and to see that interest, but that would occur. Those athletes that might be interested in boys lacrosse are going to most likely come from another sport, which could end up, we no longer offer this, but now we offer this. There's only boys and girls lacrosse and boys and girls bowling is about the only things that we do not offer that are out there.
Fishing.
We have
We have a fishing club.
we have a fishing
club,
club,
not a
yeah.
sport.
We're not competing yet. I think that's the goal.
Okay, any other thing you want to review on your?
Are there any other questions from the board in
Yeah.
regards to
At
fees?
at what level do we keep our data for participation? Is the fine arts department reporting on their participation and the athletic department reporting on their participation, or do we use somehow the Skyward program to track the participation?
All of the rosters are entered into Skyward, and so that way we can run a report to see which students are only involved in extracurricular, which are only involved in an activity, which are involved in both, and get the overall percentage of participation to be accurate, provided that the rosters are accurate. But we use those rosters in charging students either the pay to play or pay to participate fees
So
as well.
it's at the highest level where,
I think we've done that now. This will be our third year that we've tried to track everything. Like we report to the board.
And it's some
or
other-
something like that, or maybe August.
and at some other meeting equally as important, the kids who don't participate.
But you're going to
Reporting
do,
on, telling us what we're doing in that department in the future.
Correct. We always do that when we report out about the district goals.
well, you're going to report on the club, like the play and the club, so you do that, you're going to do that report at a different meeting,
And the
right?
second semester.
Yeah, so you're doing the sports today, but we're going to get a similar report like we did last year on all the other clubs, chess, math club, all the other activities, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Any other questions for Art?
Just one real quick thing. Do we have any better intelligence on the effect of the pay-to-play on the participation? You can make all kinds of assumptions, but is it in surveys with respect to the non-participants?
I don't know if we've done a survey with that specific question on there. I mean,
And I'm not certain what we would do with the information for sure, but
I mean, the
kinda like to
numbers,
know.
outside of tracking the numbers over the last couple of years where we've, that initial year that we started it, we saw a little decline, and now I
Right.
think we're right back to where we were, if not higher now.
Well, we actually made adjustments down, so.
I mean, there's not many schools out there that no longer have a pay to participate at some level. I think that's just the nature of it. but-
Are you seeing any trends in the pay to participate, different rate structures on the non-cut versus the cut sports? So, for example, basketball, staying at a whether that athlete's been in 2 sports or not. If you want to play basketball, you're going to pay $200 versus, cross country.
I guess I'm not understanding your question.
So.
You play
if-
cross-country in the fall, and then your basketball would be 150. He's asking, are we considering it all, saying basketball should be 200 since it's a cut sport and we're going to fill it anyway?
Right.
Is that similar to what?
Yep.
I mean, I've never looked at it like that. I mean, I think when we originally did the pay to participate, we looked at other schools to see if other sports charged a different fee, and there wasn't many schools that do that per sport. What we found was that you have either a tiered system or a family cap or something like that is what most schools do. But I think there was only maybe 2 schools that I found that actually charged differently based upon sports.
And this is 4 years of experience now, right?
Yeah.
Well, I think the other, and Gary's brought this up before, what I think is kind of helpful, maybe going to sport as your last analysis where you show what the cost per participant is. To tell you, I was stunned that golf is the lowest. You would think with greens fees and everything it would be higher, but, we cost this school $100 a boys athlete for golf, and it cost us almost $1,000 for each kid in basketball. And there's a big drop-off after that. I mean, most sports are $500 per student or less. So, another thing I said to Kevin is, it's a little hard thing to talk about when they were very, very successful, but the fact is we still have to look at the cost. And is there things we can do when we see a sport like that where it's $1,000 a student? And even Gary had brought up before football, but when there's so many participants in football, even though the cost is the highest for the sport, it's right in almost the middle of what the cost per student is. It's just a little over $500, plus you've got a lot of activities connected with it, like cheerleading and pom-pom and flags and the band. I mean, there's a lot tied to that one.
Right.
So, but when you just look at it this way, it is a little kind of disconcerting that we can have somebody play golf for $100 and it costs $1,000 to have somebody play basketball.
The challenging thing is that every sport is so unique in the way that you need to run it or to put on an event. So the biggest difference, let's just say golf and basketball, all you have for golf is your green fees. There's no officiating fee, there's no invite fee. Then you look at a
Well,
basketball.
transportation go with all.
Well, I mean,
transportation for basketball is a
Well,
pretty
the thi-
significant.
No, what's driving basketball is the $35,000 in stipend off of 44 kids. So you're talking $800 per athlete for the stipends. That's what's driving it.
But then the other thing is just looking at, is the cost of an event itself, where you have basketball, you have 3 levels, so you have 2 officials for a freshman game, you have 2 officials for a sophomore game, you have a separate 3 official crew for a varsity game, then you have 4 table workers, you have 2 ticket takers, you have 3 security members to run an event. So it's obvious, it's more expensive just to run that event, just the nature of that itself. Some of these sports have no other additional fees. So they're just going to be less, obviously. So it's hard to make them completely equal because they're so different, just the nature of them.
All right, any other questions for Art?
I have one, and then John, and I don't know that this is for Art. Art may be able to contribute information. It's either for Kevin or Kristen. I think our board goals are that every student would participate in at least one thing, either a sport or an activity. So, we look at sports isolated from the activities, but when we see that final chart with the activities, will we know the overall percentage of students who have done one or the other? Kristen, you probably would know that more than...
No, I mean, I could...
Yes, I'm trying to pull it up right now. We report on that every year. We report out on that district.
So you'll have a kid that's in 1 sport, 2 sports, or 3 sports, or a student that's involved in 1 sport and 1 club, 2 sports, 2 activities, so that's what we do at the end, and then these students are only involved in activities, or these students are only involved. So we can break it down that far.
Finite.
Like
Because the goal is that they do one thing, and if they're
Correct.
not an athlete, right.
last year we had 205 students that participated in extracurricular activity only. We had 442 students that participated in 1 sport, 262 students that participated in 2 sports, and 41 students participated in 3 sports. And then we also broke it down by overall students that participated in 0 activities, 1 activity, 2 activity, 3, or more than 3.
So what was the percentage that didn't do either a sport or an activity?
It was 37%.
What was that?
Okay, John, you had a question?
Yeah, Art, just looking at the boys swimming, they had a phenomenal year, but it looks like the number of participants is going down. Do you know why?
You know what, I talked to the coach about that. I don't know if it is just that age, the feeder program where you just knew, okay, our number's gonna be down because we don't have swimmers coming in. I don't know if it's swimmers that, or, I really don't have the answers of why it's gone down outside of, you know, we have a very strong feeder program here right now with a lot of kids, but there's a gap. There's some gaps between what's coming in, you know, so maybe next year we only really have 10 swimmers, well, the following year we'll have 20 swimmers, and the following year we're only gonna have 8 swimmers. So that really dictates what kids, and then you're gonna get a handful that have never swam before that come out for the team, but we haven't really pinpointed why outside of just the trend of swimmers that come through. But we could have I could probably do a pretty good job of predicting how many new swimmers we would have next year. I mean, after your freshman year, you don't really get a lot of athletes that say, oh, my junior year, I'm gonna now try swimming. You know, at that point, they've pretty much made up their mind of what they're gonna do. So it's really looking at the feeder, and then how many of those kids from the feeder program then choose RB, you know, or do they go to private schools? So we kind of try to predict that, and a lot of the coaches could probably answer that right now if they know, oh, this is what's coming up. And then you have an idea.
So you're not worried about it?
No, I mean, I think our feeder program is very strong, and I think our high school program is very strong, and I don't think we're losing kids to go to other programs. They want to come and swim at RB. So no, I don't think our numbers are going to decline, you know, drastically. Like I said, we still have enough swimmers that we fill a full varsity and JV lineup, and with those swimmers, we have a lot of success. We won conference in both of them and had success, obviously, at the state level. So, you know, I think we're still pretty strong, and we'll continue to be strong in that program.
All right, any other questions for Art? Art, thank you very much for coming.
I would like to publicly also, before I leave, is to thank Terry Kavanaugh, my administrative assistant, who will be retiring tomorrow. Is her last official day. So
How many years in the district, Art?
What's that?
How many years did Terry have in the district?
Well, she was here before, left for a couple years, and came back. I mean, altogether, I think it's 20-plus years in the district, and then 30-plus in education. So she will be she will be missed. But I wanted to publicly thank her for her service here.
All right.